Hi, Matteo.
Hello.
I'm very happy to see you. Thank you for inviting me
too.
to your restaurant. You know, I've been to a lot of cooking classes, but you're my very first Italian teacher. In order to make a real Italian risotto, it's necessary to pay special attention to how the rice is cooked. In the finished dish, the grains should stick together just a bit, but inside they should remain al dente, or firm to the bite. Risotto shouldn't be neither watery nor dry, so the first step is choosing the correct rice.
For cooking risotto, you should choose only medium-grain rice. This type of rice contains 2 polymers of starch in the required ratio, amylopectin and amylose. Amylopectin is a starch polymer on the surface of rice grains. It is soft, quickly mixes with water, and thus this polymer gives the risotto its creamy texture, gluing the grains together. Amylose, on the other hand, is hard and inside the grain, and it allows rice grains to remain slightly hard when fully prepared. It is necessary to preserve both components of the grain, and therefore rice must never be rinsed under water before cooking. Otherwise, the outer starch layer will be destroyed.
Chef Matteo has chosen a special type of rice for our risotto, carnaroli. Today, we are going to prepare an unusual and memorable recipe with beets and smoked salmon. And here's the first secret from our Italian chef. The preparation of risotto doesn't start with the boiling of rice. Okay, Matteo, let's get organized. The first step is to boil the rice, right?
No. First, we chop an onion.
Okay.
And we will fry the rice. This is very important when it comes to risotto. Frying the rice allows us to get the desired surface texture, which will allow the rice to cook evenly.
The rice should be fried in a pan with olive oil and onions. Cooking it with this method makes the outer layer of the rice spongy and allows the rice to absorb more broth later on in the process. The grains should change color, acquiring a somewhat golden hue, signaling that the rice is ready.
As we've mentioned before, the Maillard reaction is a chemical reaction between amino acids and sugars. It gives food a golden crust when it is roasted or baked. But we haven't mentioned that this reaction takes place not only at high temperatures in a pan, but it also occurs in the human body, in the protoplasm of the cell. Under normal conditions, the reaction rate is so slow that its products have time to be removed from the body. However, if a sharp increase in blood sugar levels occurs, the rate increases significantly, and the products that are created as a result of the interaction of amino acids and sugars accumulate in the body and can cause numerous disorders.
So, Matteo, how do you know when the rice has been fried long enough and you can remove it from the stove?
When the rice is ready, you will hear that it starts to squeak. This means that,
Crack?
yes, it cracks.
After the rice starts to crack, as Matteo described it, we add white wine. The evaporation temperature of alcohol is lower than that of water, and as a result, it evaporates faster, leaving behind only its aroma in the dish. And only after all of that can liquid be added to the rice. We should start boiling the rice right away, without a big pause, correct?
Yes.
Now we add the beet juice?
Yes, we pour beet juice into it.
And is this freshly made beet juice that we're using?
Yes. It is natural, fresh beet juice. It gives the desired color and, of course, taste.
Coming up in the program, how to not overcook risotto and turn it into oatmeal. Why do Italian chefs make waves on the plate? And what kind of rice is suitable for sushi? The most important rule to follow when cooking risotto is to add liquids gradually. If you immediately pour in large amounts of juice or broth, the rice will quickly finish cooking, but the liquid will not have had time to evaporate, and the result will be not an Italian dish, but ordinary oatmeal. It's equally important to keep the set ratio of solid and liquid ingredients. It should be 1:5. Risotto must be cooked over medium heat and stirred correctly. Matteo, am I correct in saying the biggest problem with risotto is the amount it must be stirred?
Yeah.
It has to be constantly stirred, giving you
Yes.
no time to step away or take a break.
No, you can't leave it. And that's why chefs don't really like it when they have a bunch of orders of risotto at the same time, because the constant
Really?
stirring. Yes.
Well, it seems your stirring is almost at an end. The perpetual stirring causes a large amount of starch to come out of the rice. That turns the liquid, or in our case fresh beet juice, into a sort of gel, and that is why risotto has such a uniform, sticky consistency. As even Italian chefs will admit, the advantage of risotto dishes over pasta is that risotto can be combined with almost any other desired ingredients. Properly cooked rice is difficult to spoil, and therefore, just like with pizza, we can add any ingredients we want.
Starch molecules are composed of glucose molecules connected in long chains. When the temperature rises, they are intertwined and form a grid in which the water molecules are held. Thanks to this grid, the ingredients acquire a jelly-like consistency. Starch is a carbohydrate that plants rely on as a source of nutrition. When we consume starch, it is also an energy source for us, but first our bodies need to convert it into glucose. Here I have a pretty sweet model of a starch molecule made of sweets. Each ring is a segment of glucose. The process of breaking down starch begins the moment food enters your mouth. There, saliva enzymes convert starch into simple carbohydrate maltose. We can even taste it if we chew white bread for a long time. Then, as it progresses along the gastrointestinal tract, maltose is converted into glucose. The bonds dissolve, and pure glucose is what's left. And only after that can it begin to be absorbed by the intestinal walls. And getting into the blood system, it supplies the cells with energy. Sometimes the conversion of starch into glucose can be noticed without the effects of enzymes. This process is called hydrolysis, and it occurs when acids are present and the temperature rises. For example, if unripe bananas are left in the sun, they darken and become sweet after a while.
As even Italian chefs will admit, the advantage of risotto dishes over pasta is that risotto can be combined with almost any other desired ingredients. Properly cooked rice is difficult to spoil, and therefore, just like with pizza, we can add any ingredients we want.
In Italy, we always say that risotto must be all'onda, meaning like a wave.
Okay,
When we put the rice on the plate,
I see.
you should tap the plate a little, and it must
Spread a little.
spread out.
Wow, beautiful.
Yes. That shows the rice has
Correct
the correct...
consistency.
Yes.
Meaning the right ratio of liquid to solid ingredients was used. After we check that the rice has reached the desired consistency, the risotto is ready to be served. Matteo decided to complete the dish with a rather original combination. It's really a shame that I can't send this magnificent smell through the screen. It's both sweet due to the beet juice and slightly tart because of the gorgonzola. An amazing
Yep.
aroma.
It is a shame. We will also add some smoked salmon. Just a slice of it. Like this.
Does it pair well with the beet juice? Interesting.
Give it a try and see for yourself.
I've never seen beets combined with salmon. It's unusual. And we also have beet leaves here.
These are actually just dried beet slices.
Oh, like beet chips.
Yes.
You could say that.
Okay, great. And on top we can add some
Parmesan, of course.
parmesan.
It's an Italian dish after all. There must be some Parmesan.
Right, without parmesan.
It wouldn't be an Italian dish without it.
It wouldn't be an Italian dish without parmesan. Finally, our risotto is ready.
It almost seems wrong to destroy this beautiful masterpiece with a fork, but to leave an Italian masterclass hungry would be a crime. Well, Matteo, I think we're now at the moment of truth and reward for my hard work. Well, okay, your hard work. But you know, before I try it, I want to say that I figured you out. I think the risotto is inspired by Russian beet soup. That's where the idea came from. You agree? Okay, it's time to see how it tastes already. No need to teach me how to eat. In my opinion, this is a phenomenal combination of flavors and ingredients. Here, the salmon and the gorgonzola, how should I put it, make for a perfect duet. And then there's the addition of the beet juice, of course.
So, short grain rice is best for making sushi. But you were using long grain rice.
So you're trying to say that the shape of the rice determines its properties?
No, I want to say that the properties of rice are determined by its chemical composition. Short-grained rice has good viscosity and elasticity because it contains a large amount of amylopectin, a component of starch.
You know, if you keep on talking about sushi in such a boring way, I won't want to eat it anymore.
I disagree with you. In my opinion, theoretical knowledge is the basis of any good dish, especially a Japanese one.
Less talk and more sushi, Alexander. I know that you're good at theory, but you don't seem eager to start cooking.
Okay, I'm starting. Look.
So I've all but learned how to prepare sushi, and I know the secrets of cooking one of the main Italian dishes. But what about Russian cuisine? Given our love of buckwheat, it wouldn't be right of me not to learn how to cook it properly. This will perhaps be the most cultured episode of our program, from a cooking perspective, of course. Today I will learn all sorts of recipes for preparing cereal grains, and I hope that the chef will be able to prove to me that rice and buckwheat are good for things other than oatmeal. Hello, Artyom.
Hello?
Thank you for having me in your kitchen today. You know, as I was preparing for our meeting today, I was thinking of all the different grains, but the one thing that kept popping up in my mind was the oatmeal I was made to eat as a kid. There was always buckwheat oatmeal at my school's cafeteria. I hope you will shatter such stereotypes for me today and show that grains are not only healthy, but tasty.
Don't worry. Today we're not going to do anything like that. No boring oatmeal. Everything will be new and interesting for you.
Chef Artyom has an unusual menu for today's program consisting of 2 dishes. This is tom yum soup with popcorn wild rice and chicken breasts with 3 different kinds of grains: buckwheat, bulgur, and quinoa. So where do we start? This is going to be like a side dish consisting of 3 different grains?
Right, we start with the buckwheat.
Okay, this is a kind of grain that isn't all that well known in some parts of the world.
Yes, it is more popular in Eastern Europe.
That's interesting. Are we going to use some special technique to boil it, or will we just be doing the classic way with hot milk?
First, we will soften it. To do this, we pre-soak buckwheat in warm water at room temperature.
Buckwheat, like many other grains, seeds, and beans, must be pre-soaked for several hours. Many people know this rule, but probably, like me, never think about its scientific explanation. Alexander, I hope you can help us?
Of course I can. It's all about phytic acid. This is a substance found predominantly in plants and seeds. It is known for its insidious properties, blocking the absorption of minerals entering the body. Phytic acid molecules bind to themselves calcium, magnesium, and iron ions and remove them from the body, not allowing them to be absorbed. And another unpleasant property of this substance is that it can suppress the act of fermentation that we require to digest food. However, it is quite easy to neutralize phytic acid. It is decomposed by the enzyme phytase contained in grains and is activated by water. Therefore, it is important not to neglect pre-soaking the grain before using it to cook a dish.
After we have dealt with the acid, we can finally start cooking.
We add a bit of oil, and then at the end of the preparation process, the oil will cover the buckwheat grains. It will help us heat it more intensely so that the stronger flavor is produced. It will be somewhat nutty.
Yeah, I've heard that oil is a must when preparing buckwheat. Okay.
Please hand me the spatula.
Here.
Thanks.
How long do we fry it, and what is the difference between boiling and frying buckwheat?
We fry it for 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, if we just boil it without frying, the flavors won't change a lot. This way, the aroma will be slightly more intense. It will be more perceptible.
Buckwheat gets its intense aroma thanks to Alexander's beloved Maillard reaction, just as rice gets its flavor in risotto. After frying, it's necessary to add water. The main thing is to not overdo it. Coming up in the program, semolina or couscous, the whole truth about this Eastern ingredient. What is quinoa, and how do you make rice into popcorn?
Now we pour in just enough water. We want the buckwheat to soak it up and swell, and only then does it become ready for use in our dish.
I see. That means that buckwheat can be spoiled by an abundance of water, so you need to be careful.
Buckwheat can be spoiled by anything.
So we boil it for about 5 minutes, and we cook it in this pot?
Yes. Can you smell that already?
Yeah. The buckwheat is now ready, but we need to cook 2 more types of grains for our dish. First, we need to make bulgur. Basically, this is prepared the same way as buckwheat. First comes the soaking and frying, then boiling for a short period of time. Bulgur is quite a funny name compared to other grains, in my opinion at least.
It sounds rather amusing.
Exactly, although couscous can also compete with it.
Several types of cereal products, can be made from wheat by crushing the kernels, breaking the wheat down into 3 parts: the starch or endosperm, the germ, and the shell. The most famous product made from this endosperm is semolina. In the Middle East, couscous is made from it. The semolina is sprinkled with water, balls are formed from the mixture, and they are sprinkled with flour, and the excess is shaken off. The process of making bulgur from wheat is also labor-intensive. Wheat grains are steamed, then dried in the sun, cleaned of shells, and crushed to desired size.
It seems to me that most restaurants started including bulgur in their menus only a couple years ago.
Yes, that's right.
But people already love it. Now it's become popular and we can put it on equal terms with buckwheat.
Yes, it has a specific taste. Very interesting. It is a little bit sweet, somewhat reminiscent of rice.
The bulgur is ready, but we'll put it aside along with the buckwheat until we prepare our third and most unusual grain. Or it's not even a grain at all.
This is quinoa.
I see.
Most people think that it's a grain, but it's not. It happens to be the smallest fruit in the world, but because it looks a bit like buckwheat and tastes similar to brown rice, everyone assumes that it's a grain as well.
I know that quinoa has also become quite popular.
Yes, it's very trendy. Quinoa is what's known as a pseudo-cereal, meaning it is cooked and eaten like a grain, but botanically speaking, it's actually a fruit. In fact, this glass is chock full of the smallest dried fruits on Earth. Quinoa's history goes way back to the Incas, where the fruit was considered to be sacred. Quinoa is unparalleled when it comes to the number of valuable nutrients contained within. It's a significant source of protein, fiber, and iron.
Will we soak the quinoa before cooking it?
No, you don't have to soak it. Well, you can. It'll just cook much quicker. You can also revive it, so to speak. Soak it overnight, drain the water in the morning, cover it with a damp cloth, and leave it at room temperature until the evening. That will cause it to germinate, and you can add the seedlings to salads without boiling.
After boiling, quinoa is about 4 times larger in volume than when it started. The center of our fruit becomes transparent. Well, you definitely have more than enough water.
We will drain it.
The ratio is approximately 1 to 10.
Yes, if we do this like for buckwheat or bulgur, it won't be crisp. It will stick together.
You have your own individual approach to every grain, to every ingredient. Is it possible to simply boil water and add quinoa, buckwheat, and bulgur and cook them all at once? And in the end still achieve a nice dish? Why do you need to cook each separately? I mean, you use similar methods for cooking both the bulgur and the buckwheat.
Well, if you just boil all 3 things together in one dish, it will turn out to something along the lines of oatmeal.
Well, now all 3 grains for our side dish are cooked and ready. Now we can proceed to the main dish of our program, popcorn. It can be made from almost any cereal grain, but we've decided to use wild rice this time.
At home, most of the time we use white rice. It is the most processed rice, and if we look at its nutritional properties, it comes up short compared to other grains.
Why?
Because all the nutrients are to be found on the shell, and cleaned rice doesn't have any shell at all. All the nutrients are basically thrown away.
You know, you seem a little biased against white rice.
Yes, it's inexcusable. There is also brown rice. It's only been partly cleaned.
Is this brown rice?
No, it's not been processed at all. Even after cooking, it's quite thick and hard.
But it has all the nutrients.
Yes, this type of rice is rich in nutrients, just like brown rice.
We start making our popcorn by boiling the grains in water. Then they must be allowed to dry. At room temperature, it will take about a day, and that's why we chose to use a faster method, the oven. Wow, time and high temperatures have really changed the rice. It's withered, wrinkled.
It's still not popcorn.
It's like sunflower seeds.
Right, we need to fry it. It's just like corn. They are seeds that start to pop, and we'll get popcorn in the end. First, we're going to heat the oil and boil some water so that we have hot water for the final dish when we have the rice ready.
The oil must be heated to roughly 400 degrees. Only at this high temperature will the grains of rice start to burst.
The nourishing starch tissue in rice, the endosperm, has a hard shell on the outside and is soft on the inside and contains water held by the starch. When the grain is heated to approximately 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the water changes its physical state from liquid to gas. Water vapors are produced, which take up much more volume than liquid. The dense shell of the grain can no longer withstand the pressure of the water and it bursts. The starch softened under the action of heat and pressure expands, quickly turning into a foamy structure. Then it cools down and hardens.
Really, I can see how the rice grains begin to pop. They lose a bit of their dark brown shell.
It is airy itself, that is, it resembles popcorn in its texture.
Okay, now I'll make another serving of popcorn. The trick is not to burn myself. Tell me, can you make such enchanting popcorn from any grain?
It can be made from any grains that contain starch. It can be ordinary rice, it can be barley, it can be buckwheat.
Now it's finally time for the most interesting part of our program, at least for me, that is. Artyom, thank you so much for this beautifully set table. It is, I see, very reminiscent of my school's cafeteria. We're not without a first course. Let's start with the soup. Tell me about it.
This is tom yum soup with a coconut milk base and popcorn rice as a side dish.
This is amazing. First of all, the texture itself is really delightful. I'd say that you could add it to any dish, the popcorn made from rice, I mean. Or you could just eat it by itself as a snack.
In the evening while watching TV.
Exactly, your favorite show. Okay, I'll have to finish the soup later. Tell me about the second course.
The second course is a healthy dish. Stewed chicken breast garnished with 3 different kinds of grain and a celery root sauce.
Honestly, if you had worked in my school's cafeteria or you were my grandmother, I would have eaten all of the oatmeal you served me. I would have asked for seconds too, because this is amazing. The grains aren't soft and watery like many are used to eating. All 3 have the right texture, a great taste, and they go well with each other. It's just perfection. Hi, Alexander.
Hi, wait a sec. Okay, sushi rice in contrast to risotto rice mustn't be stirred. Okay, that's right. It is important that the starch remains in the grain, fine. It is necessary to boil at high heat for 15 minutes, and then add a little rice vinegar, great. Great. So the starch will react with the acid, and our base for sushi will acquire the necessary consistency. The rice will be sticky, and at the same time it will not turn into a thick mass. Fine. Hey. What are you doing?
Alexander, I'm sorry. Everything that you're talking about, starch, vinegar, consistency, it's all very interesting, but I just couldn't wait any longer. I'm starving. But I ordered some for you too.
But I tried so hard. I took so much time. I've read so much stuff. I didn't let the amylopectin leave the grain. Are there any Philadelphia rolls there?
Yes, just for you. Help yourself.
Well, I think I can take a short break now, and then, with renewed vigor, I will. Can you pass me the soy sauce, please? Thank you. I'll finish all of this, okay?
It's all yours.
Thanks.